Alright guys, Hatchcramming again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. What an absolute banger series. The match of the weekend on paper delivered in spades. OpTic versus Los Angeles. These the world champions versus the super team that was intended to beat them. Game 5, round 11, 1 versus 2 clutch. Doesn't get any crazier than this, especially with all the circumstances that led up to that point. How about Kenny in that round 11 after all the criticism over the last few days? Plenty else to get into as well. Very much enter into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. We're just going to start with Kremp. If you're not interested in what Kremp's up to, that's perfectly fine. Feel free to skip forward a couple of minutes, but I love racing, and obviously I want to follow what Kremp is up to as the greatest of all time in COD, and he was racing in horrific conditions today at Daytona. Like, it was really wet, and certainly for a driver new to racing on this type of level, in this type of series, you know, this is an IMSA championship. This is no small deal that Kremp is racing in. So he's racing in the GSX category here. So there's 3 different classes of cars on the track, and within his category, some drivers are silver rated, he's a bronze rated driver, so he's kind of in a class within a class, as it were. So it was horrific conditions. It started under a yellow flag, and Porter, here he is actually going off track and struggling early on, but genuinely Kremp, once he got the hang of the car in these conditions, had an unbelievably good drive today. We mentioned this morning that he crashed out of yesterday's race. This was massive for him in the context of the championship. At this point, he wasn't even in the top 6, as you guys can see here under the GSS category, under the GSX, sorry. But then he made a pass, he got up into 6th place, then I think there was a yellow flag, and he got up into 5th, and he started making passes, and the notable thing about this is that it's not just like he was making progress through the field with cars that are like his, which he was, but he was progressing and, you know, overtaking and defending from cars on drivers from a higher class than he was racing in. He beat everyone in his category by like 30 seconds. That was his delta to the next quickest guy. But he ended up on the podium this race. He got into 5th. The guy in, I think he was 2nd at the time, he had an issue, basically. He dropped down the field. So Kremp was up to 4th. And then on the final couple of laps, he overtook the guy to secure the podium. So just to make a result in the end. So Kremp ended up 3rd, a podium on his basically opening weekend in his class for the car type, but as I say, from his driver class, he just smokes everyone. So I'm sure that he turned heads today with this performance, because tricky conditions, drying conditions, and Porter had one of the better drives of all the guys out there today in all the different cars. So I'm sure that he'll talk about that tomorrow. I thought it was nice as well to see some, you know, people of course who have followed Kremp's career out there at Daytona watching the action. Here's Kremp coming past, I believe, after the checkered flag had flown. Let's get into the Call of Duty. A little bit of an elephant in the room today was that Allyckt wasn't on the broadcast, and people have been kind of wondering as to why. You guys might be aware of, you know, some drama that Ally was involved in over the last couple of months. I'm not going to go into that in details here. Maybe it'll be necessary in the coming days if anything actually comes to light about this. But yeah, I don't know what's going on here, but Maven was on the desk instead of Allyckt. So you know, I don't know. They didn't really address it. I don't know the answers. I think Allyckt, her Twitter went private for some time, but now seems to be back to normal again. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything going on here, but it's just strange, right? Because if Ally had something that she had to, you know, deal with on a weekends, you might expect to see, it's just weird that it's a one day, right? Like, you might expect, oh, Ally, as was happened with Miles before when he's not been able to commentate for a weekend, you know, he'll take this weekend off because he's got things to deal with. Whereas, you know, doing the Friday, the Saturday, then being absent on the Sunday definitely raised some questions. But actually, I just checked her Twitter because it seems to be up again, and she does say she'll be back next weekend. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on there, but that is the latest story that we are hearing on that situation. But let's dive into the series, because Gentlemates played Toronto. And, well, this one was very interesting, certainly from the Gentlemates point of view, because, again, they went back to normality, pretty much getting slammed. I rate this Toronto team pretty highly, as you guys know. I like a lot of the guys on this roster. Gentlemate, I wasn't sure they could do it again, and, well, they didn't. They lost the game one. This game one, actually, I mean, Ultra just played very well. JoeDeceives was a monster. He actually had a map not that dissimilar to what Purj did just the other day against Ravens. The Search destroyed them. This was a quick 6-1 rapid fire. Toronto's control is still very questionable indeed. They did lose that one, and JoeDeceives started map 4, 3 and 14. Now, I think for this Ultra team, CleanX, Beans, you know, Joey's a bit inconsistent, but I rate the Beans CleanX thing. I don't think there's any better that they could have done there with forming their team for this season. Insight, I will say, does worry me. Like, watching his like play style, it's the same as it's always been, but yeah, we see this with Skyz. I think Skyz on Gentlemate, and even Attach, I would say, on Cloud9, there are some ARs in the league right now that I feel like in this game, the pace that it plays at, they're just not very impactful. And Insight is one of those. And with Scrappy, and maybe with Beans, it's okay because he's filling the gaps where necessary. But yeah, I am a bit concerned. Like, if this team goes downhill ultra and they don't get the results they want to, Insight to me is the man that is a bit in question. But they did get the job done in the end on the Skyline. As I say, Insight had a pretty rough finish to the map, but Beans had a mega one, dropped 40 kills in the end, with 28 of them non-traded. And that was enough to get over the line. So, look, Priestahh didn't have, obviously that was what I was mentioning, right? Priestahh, could he deliver again? And he had a fine series here, but the bottom line was that Gorilla's mates, whatever you want to say, just weren't good enough. They won the control that Toronto aren't great at, but Toronto's excellent search and destroy continues, and they won both hardpoints. So this was the kind of result that you would basically exactly expect based on how good these teams presently are. But I think it says a lot about Gorillas. And Ultra, yes, they lost at the minor, but they advanced to 6-0. They are looking good to be the top seed going into the major, which they are basically hosting, let's not forget. It is, of course, a Spanish event, but Toronto are putting it on because of their ties to the Spanish scene. So that was a crazy series, and Gentlemate a lot to think about after this weekend, I'll say, because sure, they got their win against Cloud9, but Cloud9 might need to blow it up as well. And, you know, these guys, you look at this team and you think, how did HyDra manage to get these guys to where they were? And look, the players are probably better in the previous games, Modern Warfare 2 for sure. But still, I look at that roster and I think that team won the World Championship a couple of years ago with not dissimilar a team, but it feels like they're miles away from that right now. But of course, we got to talk about the big one. This was the series that everyone was looking forward to. Los Angeles Thieves, OpTic Texas. Pretty much the first time we've seen a matchup of this caliber so far this season. And what was going to happen, right? Was it going to be one-way traffic? Thieves obviously looked a bit shaky at the minor. OpTic arguably looked a bit shaky over the last few days. As I said earlier today, I thought it was going to be a Game 5 bang-out. I was leaning Thieves' way, and I was very confident in that prediction halfway through the Game 5. That's not, however, how the series ended. And a bit of a gut-wrenching one today for Envoy, because his birthday today, and it ended in, well, not the way that he would want it to end. He will not be able to sleep very well tonight, I do not believe, after this one. Today, by the way, was the 29th ever game between 100 Thieves and OpTic Gaming in COD. Whether it's been LA Thieves, 100 Thieves, OpTic, whatever, they've played each other 29 times now, and it was 16-12 to Thieves. Now it's 16-13, of course. For years, that was Kenny versus OpTic. Now it's OpTic, it's OpTic Kenny versus Los Angeles Thieves. So the series gets underway on Hacienda, a map, of course, where OpTic tend to go particularly well. Shotzzy has a lightning fast start, and this map was pretty much defined by Scrappy having the biggest stinker that I think I've ever really seen in COD, apart from, Zuma and other legendary moments such as that. But Scrappy here managed to drop 6 kills, and they're calling him, well, I don't know how to pronounce it exactly, but like Scrap, but you replace the S with the 6 or whatever. Like, there's been that going around, because OpTic started, it was pretty competitive, but OpTic just pulled a massive lead in the middle of the game, and Thieves just had absolutely no answer. This was a moment where Shotzzy nearly got this kill, which would have closed out the game. Scrap did actually get one other one on the board a couple of seconds later, but it was a mega map from both of the SMGs here. And Thieves just got absolutely slammed. Like, this is so confusing in a way, right? Because Thieves looked incredibly good when the game first came out. They looked like the team to beat. And now they are having series similar to what we saw with FaZe, at the start of the game. It's not like, FaZe have been crushing everyone by any means. But now Thieves are in this position where they're even capable of getting 100-point clubs, which is, surprising to even think about. And Scrappy drops, like, the worst numbers of all time. I don't know if he's ever had a map this bad in his entire career. Even in the CDL, this is, like, the worst map ever on some metrics. So Thieves get 100-point clubs. Scrappy, Huke had a great map. He ended 22-9 here. We're going to gas him up in a couple of seconds. Scrappy managed to have the worst map of the year, and comfortably so. Kind of remarkable, actually. If you look at these numbers here, the damage numbers, worst damage performances per map in the league so far, we're talking 1,700, 1,600 damage, 1,600 damage, 1,600 damage, 700 damage, right? Like, this is It's not 1400, it's not 1200, it's sub 1000. It's the first map in the history of the CDL, we believe. In the history of the CDL, it's the first time that anyone has dropped under 1000 damage in a respawn map, I believe. Certainly in a hardpoint. So, yeah, amazing stuff for Scrappy. Not the man that you thought would set the records. The crazy thing about it was that in 5 rounds of the next map, he managed to drop double the kills. Pretty much anyway. He definitely outperformed his hardpoint in a couple of rounds of Search and Destroy. This round was, I mean, look, it happens like this in COD sometimes, where you have these up-close gunfights, but Scrappy versus Dashy 1 versus 1 with the gunny that these guys have, I was expecting it to be a bit cleaner than this, but no, Scrappy gets that one done. Obviously, Dashy will feel like he should have won that round. Scrappy started incredibly well here. Here's Kenny in the corner watching an RCXD fly around the corner. And at this point, he was already 0-4, and it wasn't looking good. And Kenny's, I wouldn't say exactly redemption, but it's been a big talking point of the last couple of weeks in COD. Kenny not playing so well, and the criticism of Kenny's play is absolutely justified. Like, I'm not going to say, oh, you know, because he clutched the 1v2, as we'll see in a second, everything's sunshine and rainbows. Like, Kenny's not been playing very well. He knows that. His Search and Destroy has been, on average, poor. The thing is that frustrates me is that you see, you know, OpTic fans and other fans in the scene saying, oh, Kenny's playing badly. It's time to kick him, right? Get him out of there. Bring in Illy or something like this. And I'm like, I don't think these guys really recognise what Kenny has done and does and will continue to do for all of the teams that he's been on, including OpTic. If OpTic don't sign Kenny last year, as far as I'm concerned, no way they win last year's World Championship. And sure, you know what you get with Kenny. He's going to have bad stints, especially in online play. He's going to have bad stints in Search and Destroy. But history tells you he's going to figure it out at some point, and he's a massive big game player. That's the other thing you've got to get in mind here with Kenny. So yes, they lose the game too. Obviously, Scrappy has a better performance in 5 rounds of Search than he did in the entire hardpoint before that. The control, though, OpTic really need to have a look at some VOD and think about what they're doing here, because this round, OpTic had a 6 life lead. There was 30 seconds on the clock. They were pretty close to B. And Scrappy, if you look at the minimap here, you'll think, oh, well, Scrappy, I guess, is about to cause havoc. But no, Scrappy died immediately after this. So OpTic had all the map control. They had all the time in the world to get in the points. They didn't do it, and they lost the round. They actually didn't even make this round very close. They just didn't manage the time very well at all. So that's a round that really cost them, because Thieves end up going on to win this map here. Great actual couple of kills. Shotzzy gets 3, but he eventually gets traded, and you know, Ghosty also gets 3 at the same time. This, though, was a critical map here, because Envoy was having a phenomenal map 4 here on the skyline. He was 32 in 23. Huke was having a good map here as well, but it looked like Thieves were going to get the dub. All of a sudden, though, OpTic rallied together. Shotzzy really turned up. Huke turned up as well. The SMGs on this map were going off. Ghosty had a real stinker here, actually, in the hardpoint. He won't be happy about that one. And OpTic bring a major comeback to win the skyline. But it looked like it was going to be all for naught, because they went to a Hassy end of Search and Destroy, and they were just getting clapped off the rip. Like, this map was not even close. Thieves were winning basically every single round. It was 5-1. It looked like it was going to be game over. So many viewers watching this series and how it would unfold. But all of a sudden, things started to play back in OpTic's favour. This was a critical round as well. It got to 5-4. OpTic went A. They planted the bomb immediately. And Shotzzy went massive. Like, Kenny's going to get the credit. Huke deserves the credit for a lot of the respawn play. Shotzzy deserves the credit for bringing this back, in my opinion, because he went from 2 kills to 9 in the matter of just a couple of rounds. He had 3 kills in this round as well to get it to round 11. And in the round 11, he made a crazy play to even get it to 3-3. There was 2 guys on him at the B-bomb site. He tags one of them up, throws a nade into the sky, gets his own trade with the nades. Then it's a 3 versus 3. And then it comes down to this moment right about here. And yeah, I've watched a lot of COD. This is probably the first moment that I've watched this year that's really made me like, I don't think I quite got out of my chair, but I was like, you know, this was a hype moment, and I think everyone watching it felt the same way, because so much pressure on this. 5-1 comeback on the line. Kenny 1 versus 2. Huke, I mean, they managed to get caught. Dashy and Huke over towards the other side. Thieves arguably could have played this a different way. They could have gone straight away. They challed mid. HyDra goes down. Envoy is in position to get the trade here. Kenny has 79 HP. He's not expecting the trade immediately. He wants to reposition. Envoy gets him down to 2 HP. There is no way that Envoy should lose this round. All Envoy has to do, because Kenny can't escape here. Like, he's stuck in this position. He's laying down. Envoy nearly has the angle on him. Even just if you know, Envoy jumped once, he probably is able to get this kill with him on 2 HP with a bit of a wallbang or something. All Envoy really has to do is hold his pre-aim, because if he holds his pre-aim, Kenny can't escape. Envoy is 100 HP. There's no way you can lose. But instead, Envoy goes for the sprint chow. Kenny catches the perfect timing, guns him down for the round. Incredible 1v2. And look, obviously, Envoy, you can be critical of his play here, and for good reason. But I think Kenny played it in the only way that he wins. Like, hitting the chow and hoping that Envoy will be sliding is the only way that Kenny wins this round. That's exactly what he does. And, yeah, what a way to close out the series. I mean, mind-blowing stuff. Obviously, Scrappy's takeaway is look at the hard points. But at the end of the day, they just got 5-1 comeback on in Search and Destroy Hacienda. So that was certainly a moment for the season so far. I see from Kenny, as he says, my POV was an absolute movie that series. GG to the Thieves. I think lots to think about from both teams, because certainly there were mistakes on many sides in this series. But yeah, some of the big takeaways are Huke and Shotzzy. What a duo, man, at 1.4s, pretty much of both of those guys. Huge takeover series. And, you know, it's great to see Huke delivering that and Shotzzy delivering that against a Thieves team that's meant to be one of the absolute very best. Kenny had a 0.84, and that is a talking point. That his numbers haven't been great and need to improve. But he's a big game player, and when it comes to LAN, I don't think there should be any particular concerns there. But we'll see what happens in a couple of weeks' time. We're going to talk FaZe Minnesota tomorrow morning. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.